it's you! Hi! What are you doing here outside the cabin, Gwen?
Last time on Total Drama Island.
I can't count us in for the voice crack again, but I can count us in for them reusing the same exact soundbite from the previous episode. I guess those 6 extra words just went a little bit above Christian Potenz's paycheck.
Who will sink and who will stay afloat?
Nobody, considering that this episode has nothing to do with the water. For this shot only, the cabin entrances have 2 doors each. This knot. While I will give them credit for actually drawing the round lashings somewhat correctly, it is a very unsafe knot to use for this kind of job. Round lashings are notorious for coming loose rather easily, and they are not meant to bear great weight, such as a person sleeping on top of it. A sheer lashing, or even just some wood glue, would make for a much less precarious sleeping arrangement.
I'm on a fake tanner already!
I know Lindsay isn't the brightest character, but she does care an awful lot about how she looks. I have my doubts that she would be the kind not to bring enough of one of her products to last more than 9 freaking days. Only these lights hanging above the stage would be of any real use. These lights directly in front of the stage would shine up from below the performers, distorting their shadows for a rather unappealing look. And these lights behind the bleachers could actually cast shadows of the audience onto the stage. I won't count us in for it every time, but ding to yourself anytime you see a stage light with 0 wires attached.
Jeff's hat is so large that it actually blocks the sun from Katie, so she moves in order to bask in its glory once more.
Ponytail, down, and back to ponytail. Trent is sitting on air here. The chef-o-meter only has 9 scoring positions, as opposed to the typical 10. It's not technically a problem, it's just really odd. But hey, I've dinged for less, so...
Threatening them to vote for you isn't exactly democratic.
Insert your own political joke here. No wonder the Killer Bass keep losing. 2 of these 3 can't even focus on Katie and Sadie's audition without getting distracted. Also, come on, girl can do the splits! That's gotta count for something! Owen downs the entire bottle in less than 2 seconds, yet the drinking sound effect continues in the background for over 9 seconds.
QRSTUVWXYZ. I'm Canadian!
I studied this particular scene very closely, expecting not to see Lindsay move at all in this scene, only for her to teleport to position in this one. What I actually found was much more hilarious. Tyler's jersey logo disappears. I don't think Harold is concerned for Tyler's safety, I think he's just having an anxiety attack. All of you, stop it. So, earlier when Tyler got tied up, the yo-yo ended up on his head. Now it's at his waist. So that means that he was at least able to get himself out of the string the first time. And yet here he is trotting along tied up for at least the second time, and yet he isn't trying to get out of it because... he likes it? Also, trick yo-yos are supposed to have a string that reaches from the ground to about the wielder's torso for the best balance between flexibility and control. In order to have wrapped around Tyler's body 22 times, yes, I counted, and assuming that Tyler has a statistically average circumference of about 1 meter, the string on his yo-yo would have to be over 22 meters long, meaning that either Tyler and everyone else on the show is a giant, Tyler is inhumanly thin, or he's just a doofus who really doesn't know anything about trick yo-yos. I'll let you decide which one. The clapping sound effect only fades out after everyone has already stopped clapping.
Next!
Lindsay's feet are clearly poking through the strings here, yet they are no longer free here. Exactly how wide is this countertop to where they can be doing this, and yet Tyler isn't the least bit uncomfortable? Harold is nowhere to be seen in this shot, and now he's teleported next to Sadie.
It was a teenage wedding and the old folks wished him well.
Okay, real quick, this isn't a sin, but can I just point out how cool it is that they actually animated the small discrepancy between the reflection of the fire in one lens versus the other? Sorry, it's just that this show catches a lot of flack for its animation, and especially in a series where I'm purposefully trying to find every little minute error, it's nice to see that kind of dedication. Anyway, Lashana's nose moves for a short while and it makes her look like she has a dog face. And right after I just praised the animation crew's dedication.
What part of Beat It don't you understand?
This won't be the last time this episode commits this same sin, but Trent's fingers and the actual notes he's playing aren't even close to similar. In this clip, he's just playing 2 to 3 chords over and over again, and yet his fingers keep jumping around like he's playing Mozart. Gwen would make an excellent quick change artist.
We've got a diary to find.
How do you know it's a diary? For all you know, it could be a sketchbook, or a dream journal, or pretty much anything.
So, can you really stand on your hands for 20 minutes?
Yeah, that's like virtually impossible.
Okay, so I really wanted to look into this one, and surprisingly, it took quite a while. As far as I can tell, the Guinness World Records doesn't have any data for stationary freestanding handstands. All they have is weird stuff like handstands on crutches or on a bicycle, which are judged on the distance they travel rather than the amount of time they're held. The longest handstand I could find with actual proof was this video by Canadian Gordon Lindsay, who held one for 12 minutes and 8 seconds in November 2015. However, just a year prior, his best attempt was only 8 minutes 14 seconds. So, with continuous training, it's not unreasonable to assume that a 20-minute long handstand is physically possible. However, you'll never get nearly that far with the kind of technique that Bridget is employing. According to several sources, the keys to maintaining a handstand for a prolonged period of time are keeping your core tight and your legs straight, which these floppy things clearly aren't doing. Duncan suddenly has a watch. The dreaded fingering animation strikes again. Even for a lackluster summer camp, stage lights should never be held up by rope. They should be fastened directly to whatever fixture they're hanging from to prevent exactly this kind of situation. Also, even if the lights were secured by ropes, this particular rope shouldn't have harmed anyone. It couldn't have really been holding anything up since it had to have had a lot of slack in order to wrap around Bridget's leg. Also, even if neither of the previous two things mattered, you'll notice that this whole scene happens at the front of the stage, meaning that these same ropes were also at the front of the stage, as opposed to backstage where they should be so that they can't be seen by the audience. Courtney takes a blow to the head from a falling stage light, and yet she manages to get far enough away so that she isn't visible in this shot of the impact on her violin.
You killed my violin!
Because clearly that's the worst thing she did.
Granted, high-quality violins can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars, but your skull is probably more important in this particular situation.
Gwen changed clothes and therefore left her diary in the right side of the cabin, yet Heather thinks it's a good idea to go looking for it on the opposite side. Owen and Cody are jerks to Gwen, as there are plenty of clear diving points on this dock, but rather than use any of those, they intentionally jump right in front of her. Because clearly it can't be in either of those bags. For some reason, the animators gave Gwen a locked diary, specifically, only for her to leave it unlocked.
I know I'm not as good as you are at the violin, but I can do this.
Really? Because from what I heard, her playing was passable at best. Granted, she could have just been warming up, but even a little taste of her quote-unquote amazing talent would have gone a long way here. Half of Katie's hair is missing. Well, that's just not fair. DJ could easily have slipped on the water that's now covering the stage. They actually managed to get the fingerings pretty good on this one, until the song is over and Trent randomly decides to set up 2 more chords in just his left hand and not play them. There's a scene here that involves Bridget, but I'm not going to show it to you. For those who have seen it, you don't need to ever again. And for those who haven't seen it, consider yourself lucky.
They're here.
This scene right here is actually really well handled. I suppose I could complain about how there aren't any bigger secrets of Gwen's than just a crush on Trent, but Gwen's facial expressions are enough to really carry this scene, not to mention getting our first big glimpse at Heather's skill in stirring up trouble. Short, but very effective. Although, I do have to ask why Trent is now back in the audience, but not any of the other performers. Bridget had better be careful about where she puts her keys in the future. Who knows when that pocket will disappear again? Yeah, this might be impressive the first time you hear it, but the realms of beatboxing move far beyond something this simplistic. Harold gets all the ladies, one of whom probably has head trauma, and the other of whom just grossed out an entire nation of TV viewers, both in universe and real life. Real score there, buddy.
All I needed was 4 votes against Justin.
Unfortunately for you, your math is off. Your team currently has 10 players, so to get a majority, you would need 6 total votes, as opposed to the 5 you just named, which would force a tie. I suppose it's possible that one of the other 5 voted for someone besides you, but why would they do that? Clearly, you're the one who has the biggest target on your back right now. Well, Gwen sure got over her embarrassment rather quickly if she's openly smiling at Trent now.
Justin, I personally think this is very wrong.
Jeez, could you imagine if Jeff Probst did something like that and openly disagreed with a vote after the torch ceremony? Something tells me it would not go over very well. It is only as Justin is leaving that I realize he didn't have any lines in this episode. In fact, as it turns out, he didn't have any lines for the past 3 episodes. Even in the very first episode, Justin only had 4 lines during his introduction, and that's it. That's the fewest number of lines out of any character in Season 1. Even Ezekiel got more screen time. Adam Reed, on the behalf of all those who loved your character, we apologize for this cruel injustice. Well, at least you got a bigger role in Total Drama 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 Island and in Season 2. But for now...
With words by Gwen, performance by me. Enjoy.
Dear Diary, my mum took my iPad away because she heard me listen to Fall Out Boy and she doesn't like the fact that I'm emo.